doing? Okay. Hello. Oh my goodness. Yes. I know you've been sitting still for a really long time. Okay, so my name is Kelsey, and joining you again on this lovely Friday. And I have the most adorable co-host today. This is Eliezer David, and he is going to help me demonstrate a few things that you can do at home if you're a mama or a daddy with a young little one at home. For if you start to notice, so we're going to talk about some torticollis today. If you happen to notice that your little is only preferring to look one way and has a hard time looking the other direction, or if you start to notice, if you pan up there to the wall, if you start to notice that they've got a flat spot either across the back of their head or across one side, these are some things that you can do to kind of slow that process. Obviously, if you notice those things and you're worried, you should obviously go get checked out, get an official diagnosis. But in the meantime, I know a lot of us are stuck inside and maybe are looking for some things to make that awake time with your little a little more productive. So, yes. So we'll start with just a basic explanation of the anatomy of what's going on. I might let you just run around a little bit. Which is going to be, so we're talking about the sternocleidomastoid muscle, which runs from, even as a clinician, and I've been doing this for about almost 4 years now, I still have to do my little finger guide whenever I'm treating. And so if I'm looking at, so if I notice that my baby only wants to look this direction, that means that my right SCM is shortened. And so if you look at the movement, the muscle does three things. If they work together, because there's one on each side. If they work together, then they work to flex the head forwards. If they work, we are very curious. If they work one side at a time, they work to either side bend or rotate the head. And so that's where it gets a little bit confusing, because the right SCM here, if we are using one side and we just tilt to the same side, so the right one is working, it's going to tilt me to the right. But that's where it gets confusing, is now if I'm rotating, the right side is going to shorten to turn me to the left side. And so that's why your finger guns are going to be important here. So let's say that he's got, what you can see, he's got a perfectly shaped head. Look at this cutie. Yeah. So anytime that we're stretching, it's really good to get them happy about it, and you want them to be relaxed. Because let's say I'm trying to stretch a muscle and they're trying to fight me, that means that they're just activating and trying to shorten the muscle that I'm trying to lengthen. So anytime that you can get them a little bit more involved, and they love to interact with you, definitely. And so if I want to stretch this muscle, which would be his, well, let's say, I was going with the left side, or right side, I'm sorry. So I'm going to take my hand, just do all 4 fingers, and I'm going to place it on that right shoulder, okay? Because we're looking at the right SCM. I'm going to block, although he is just so curious, so sometimes you need a little distraction, and that's okay too. So what I want is for him to look exactly where he's going. It's going to be a little more challenging with somebody who actually has a shortened muscle. But I'm going to take my hand, use my 4 fingers, and block over the shoulder here. And then I'm going to come underneath his head. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn him in the direction that I want. Actually, I think I'm going to do my opposite hand. So I'm going to take my right hand, put it on his right shoulder. So I block that down. And then I just turn him in the direction that I want. And so he's obviously the most chill baby that I've ever worked with. So most of the time that's not going to be so easy, and they're going to fight you a little bit. And so that's why if they start to fight you in that end range, you want to back off and just make it fun, make it playful, keep it light, give them something to look at. Usually I'll take this, and I won't give it to them quite yet, because then they're not doing what I need them to do. But I would place it here, block here, and then have him come underneath, and then and that's okay. They might push you off. And then you get them to do exactly that turn and that stretch. And so as long as they're tolerating it, as long as they're not actively fighting you from the stretch, you're okay to keep there. They might start to fuss a little bit, but as long as they're not actively trying to pull away, then you're still doing okay and you're still being effective. The other is just your positional holds, and obviously we've all been taught that your tummy time is super important, and so making sure that we like to say spending 3 hours at least when they're younger, between that 2 month to 4 month age, just spending as much time working up to at least 3 hours a day. Once they start to hit that 4 month range, you can still have it, you just have to do something else. So he's about 8 months, so he's pretty good. He's probably going to be crawling pretty soon. But once they start to hit that 4 month age, and we want to start developing that arm strength, that upper back strength here, and prepping them for their sitting independently, you can start something that's called baby planks. And so you're just going to have them resting over your legs, and then they are working with a toy, something out here. But you see he's supporting himself through that arm here, which is really important when they're starting to get ready to crawl. And then so obviously I've got him right up to the armpit, which is pretty supported. So once he gets pretty good at that, I can scooch him out further. And then look, this man's ready to go. But as you see, more of his chest is unsupported here. He's having to work a little bit harder. He's getting a little bit more core strengthening, and obviously that arm strengthening as well. Holding his head up really nicely. The other thing that you want to do for your torticollis, besides strengthening those extensors, is getting them to actively use the underdeveloped muscle. So if your right side is shortened, that means that it's too strong. So this side's really strong. This side is not so much because it's not being used as much. And so it's in that lengthened position. So we want to work the left side by having him rotate to the right actively. So I've stretched it out. You have such a good breath. Woo. I have stretched it out, and so we want him looking to the right there. So you just got something that makes him maintain that eye contact. And it's just like you would do repetitions in the gym of, like, let's say I want to do bicep curls for 3 sets of 10. Same thing with your baby and his neck or her neck. Is that you're just going to do as long as they're engaged with you. Now, obviously, he's a little bit more mobile than my 3 to 4 month old. But as long as they are engaging with you, and you're just getting them to actively turn the direction that you want, and then back. So that would be 1, and we've got 2, and 3, and so on and so on. The other thing that you can do is you can do a body on head turn. So if you have something like a stool or an office chair, this is typically pretty helpful. So you just balance them, and they love to look in the mirror. Like, I flipped the camera around earlier, and he was like, oh.
He's okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
He just wants to move. So you balance them over your knee, and then giving them something to look at. So I would use the computer, or I would use a mirror or a toy. We're not super set up in here, but getting them to focus on whatever's in front, and then you turn, and then they follow.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I want to go run. I know. Oh, goodness. So those are a few things. I'm sorry, you're so bored. Those are a few things that you guys can try out at home. Obviously, you should seek out an official assessment and a diagnosis from the physician if you think that that's something that you're noticing that they're preferring to only look one direction, or if you start noticing a flattening of one side of their head. The best thing that you can do, I know that there's a lot of things online that say, oh, it's I put this pillow under my baby, and then that's still resting them in one position. The best thing that you can do is just have them changing positions often, and doing that tummy time so that they're having to hold their head up. But the longer that they stay in one position, the more apt they are to prefer that position. So you just want to change their position, get them actively involved in something, especially like the tummy time, and putting some sort of a toy in front of them. I hope that was helpful to you guys. drop us a message or give us a call if you guys have any questions or concerns specifically tailored for you, and we'd be happy to help you out. So enjoy your Friday.